Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is PD in my PJs. It is March 24th. I am in my home office and hoping you all are well and safe and enjoying some social distancing at home. I want to say this is the most B-grade graphic you'll ever see there. That's kind of quick, thrown in my PJs and putting the photo of myself on top there. So enjoy, laugh if you must. I'm going to go ahead and shut off the video and we're going to get rolling with this. Well, I am Bryan Pearlman. Website, easiest way to get some more information is mostvaluablepd.com. My email is Bryan with a Y at mostvaluablepd.com. And the best way to reach me is through my mobile phone, 314-323-7340. You can call or text or email anytime. I know a lot of people say that and really don't mean it. I do mean it. So let's get rocking and rolling here, and you can stop laughing at that photo and the pajamas. So just really quickly, very brief bio here. As I will tell anyone that I encounter traveling all over the country, doing keynote addresses, doing professional development, I will always say that I'm a teacher first. Kind of jokingly, I'm a recovering school principal. I'm a licensed mental health therapist here in the state of Missouri. As I mentioned, I do keynotes in PD. I have a book that came out a year ago, January, Whatever It Takes for All Students to Succeed in School and Life. If you haven't had a chance to check that out, please check it out. And I'm also an adjunct professor. I teach 2 online classes. Through my initiatives, the initiatives that I work with my wife and others on, we're on a mission to positively impact 100,000 educators, and through that, at least 1 million students. At last count, we're somewhere in the 40,000 educators range, so we still have some work to do. On the bottom, you'll kind of see the things that I'm involved in. To the bottom left is Most Valuable Professional Development, LLC. That's my PD company. I travel to schools, districts, organizations all over the country. If there's anything that I can do for you or help with, please reach out. The middle is Dr. Lena Pearlman Associates. It's the therapy practice that my wife and I own together. We have 5 therapists. We work with kids, teens, adults. We work with couples and families. We are here in the state of Missouri, and it is a 5-person team. Just amazing people. One brief commercial on that. We have always staffed our practice so that nobody waits more than a few days to come in to be seen. Of course, if somebody's in need of therapy or counseling, they can't wait weeks or months. So there's a little commercial on that. Distinguished School of Mental Health and Wellness in the bottom right corner, which is at dsmhw.org, is a nonprofit that my wife and I founded with a dozen friends and colleagues. The organization, every year we get several hundred applications to work with us, and the board picked anything between 1 and 4 schools to work with. And that's kind of, instead of just a one and done type training or a couple-day training, which of course are still impactful, this is the type of thing where we end up working for 12 months with a school, and it's everything to do with mental health and behaviors and trauma and educator self-care, etc. So do take a moment to check that out. It's a pretty neat organization doing some great things. For those of you that are on Twitter, awesome, amazing. Continue using that for your PLN, your professional learning network. As I've said and continue to say, most of the best minds in education, leadership, mental health, medicine, etc., are there. Most people are very eager to share ideas, share information, and connect with everyone. And it really just makes the world a lot closer and more connected. I think it's just an amazing thing. A friend of mine really encouraged me about 2 years ago to get involved, and I'm kind of like, I wish I had started 5 years before that. But if you are on Twitter, follow me. It's Dr. P, so DRP_principal. If you're not on Twitter, let's do that, like right now. Maybe I'll pause for a few minutes and let you sign up. But I do follow back, again, DRP_principal. I often use the hashtag whatever it takes for kids. and also hashtag Maslow before Bloom. So hopefully that's been long enough. I will credit the bottom left image to Sylvia Duckworth. I think it's amazing why it's important that every teacher, you could say educator, leader, social worker, counselor, psychologist, whatever, why every person needs a professional learning network. So hopefully that's enough time for you to follow me. I'll follow you back. And if you've just signed up, that's awesome. For those who are not as active on Twitter, we started the Maslow Before Bloom Facebook group in September. Probably about 2,900 people connected there. Again, people post ideas, information, questions, concerns, and it's a great community of people representing so many fields that have to do with education, mental health, and trauma. So check that out. You can see it, all that stuff at the beginning, www.facebook.com/groups/Maslow Before Bloom. I think you click on it and then we give you permission to join us, and we'd love to have you. So there's 2 immediate, maybe 3 immediate commercials. We'll cut down on the commercials. Here we go. So right before doing this PD in my PJs, I wanted to make sure, I'd done another one of these about a week ago, and I really wanted to make sure that mostly everything in this one was different than the first one that I recorded. And so just sitting here as I was putting this PowerPoint together and staring outside, supposed to be a total rain out day, which it wasn't, looking outside, taking in nature a little bit, I just wrote down 10 very important things, just the first 10 things that came to mind relevant to the conversation today. And here they are. Number 1, there are no bad kids. Nobody was born wanting to be a bad kid. Please remember that. I know that there are kids that have challenging behaviors. There are kids that can be violent. There are kids that elope. There are kids that do all kinds of things. But just remember, there are no bad kids. We have to believe that there are no bad kids. You know, through the work that I've done, I've worked in supported alternative schools, starting to work in supporting a youth detention facility, the school part of that. I have to believe that there are no bad kids and that nobody was born wanting to be a bad kid. There are kids that might feel broken, forgotten, beaten down, and so forth. But again, I think we have to remind ourselves that there is good in everybody and that we have to do our best to help them be their best. 2, every kid has hopes and dreams for the future. Wow, that connects so much with the first point, that every kid has hopes and dreams for the future. It's a big job of ours to help figure out what those hopes and dreams are, particularly for students that have been unsuccessful at school or those that have faced trauma. They may not be thinking regularly about their hopes and dreams. They may be feeling kind of hopeless. A lot of people will share with everyone else that one of the reasons why people attempt suicide is hopelessness. We really can help key in on those hopes and dreams for every kid, help them start making progress to them, and really change their life trajectory, and possibly along the way, maybe even save a life. What could be more important than that? Number 3, basic human needs have to be addressed before true learning can occur. And that's the Maslow before Bloom. We know that. If somebody's hungry or they haven't slept, or they're scared, or they miss their parent, or any of those basic human needs, we get those addressed. We help improve those situations as best as we can with ourselves, with the resource in our community. Really true learning can occur. And it's really just an amazing thing to see someone have some of those pieces put in place and then really start to achieve at a high level. It's the most amazing thing. And I'm sure everyone out there has experienced that. There's a function for every behavior. I really don't believe in randomness. I don't believe in that at all. I think that when a kid acts out or runs away or says hurtful things, there's a reason behind that behavior. And if we can kind of figure that out, we can start building some success. We all do the best that we know how to. No shame or blame. This applies to parents too. There is not an educator out there, social worker, counselor, principal, student, anybody, right? There's nobody out there that's, I think, deliberately doing badly or making bad choices or set out to do that. It's that everyone is doing the best that they know how to. So we can help people to learn better methods and see things that produce positive outcomes or that have evidence that they'll be effective. For parents, I can't imagine that there's a parent out there that wants bad things for their kids. It's always been my life mission that I want to replace myself with, in this case, two people who are better than I am. And I feel like we're almost there. My twins, Matthew and Samantha, are pretty amazing. I'm doing the best that I know how to. There is no shame or blame. I'm sure I've made mistakes, many of them along the way. And we just keep learning from them and doing the best that we can. Number 6, some student behaviors are easy to solve. Some students require much more detective work. I think one of the hats that we wear is sort of that Sherlock Holmes hat, right? That there are kids that are a bit of a puzzle, and it may be the 50th or 80th or 100th thing that we try and finally make a breakthrough. On the other hand, there are other kids that might just come up to you and say, this is what I need. And if you can help me with that, I'll get my work done and be in the place where I'm supposed to and make good choices. You're going to get a mix of that. And for some kids, I don't even know if they know, if they know what their needs are, what's going on. Again, if someone hasn't slept, that could look like ADHD. If someone's scared, that can look like any number of things. And if somebody is hungry, it can look like everything. Blood sugar is kind of an important thing. So, like I say, put that detective hat on, maybe get one of those big magnifying glasses and a pipe. Well, maybe don't get a pipe and get to work there. Number 7, every child deserves a high quality education. I mean, that's guaranteed. That's like a federal law that we're going to give them a free and appropriate public education and the most high quality that we can. To me, that's a right. And that's the difference maker. No matter where someone starts or the environment that they're in or anything else, that high quality education can completely change someone's life trajectory. I'm walking proof of that. And I think there are many of us out there that the education was the great equalizer. Those of us who did not come from middle class or upper middle class or so forth, or upper class families, those of us who were on free and reduced lunch for a period of time, the great equalizer is education. And that's what we have to do. Number 8, our focus needs to be on strategies and interventions that are most likely to produce a positive outcome. I think our gut and our intuition are really, really important. But I think pairing that with evidence, things that have been tried over many, many students across the country, that's where I want to put my money. That's where I want to put my emphasis, okay? And if things that we're doing just because we've always done them and there's no effectiveness to them, or maybe it's actually detrimental, we kind of need to stop doing those things, or at least spend more of our time on things that there is evidence to support what we're doing. Methods that are strictly punitive need to be removed from schools and recycled, just like old chalkboards. We have to do that. This day of punitive, this day of walking around with the heavy stick, that doesn't work. It's not effective. I'm not sure that it was ever effective. Why not looking at restorative approaches, right? I say that a lot, and people say, well, that just kind of sounds like soft on discipline. I don't think so. Okay, I hold kids accountable, always have. Let's make logical consequences. Let's use this as a way of learning and teaching, and let's do some things, that are likely to help the student to be more successful and to extinguish those behaviors that are undesirable or so forth. And the last thing, which is so important, so often I talk about what we can do with our students and the kids and students and kids, which is a huge part of what I do and my life's mission now. But really, educators need ongoing high quality professional development. They need support, they need respect, and they need lots of self-care. Okay, it's so important. Educators are superheroes. Educators are the key to everything. They are the difference maker. That's it's not the technology we have. It's not the textbooks we have. It's not even the buildings and grounds that we have. The real difference, the key to everything for student success are the educators. We need to do everything in our power to give them the tools, to give them the support, to respect the heck out of them and make sure that they're practicing self-care. Too many of our colleagues leave our field within the first 3 to 5 years, and they're not the poor performers usually, right? We have to do everything in our power. On top of that, we need to be going back to the tree and making sure that those who are entering our field really have a good understanding of what they're getting into, really understand the day in and day out, okay? Really make sure that they're practicing problem solving, that they know what to do, okay? If they have the right tools from the beginning, if we're training folks who are already in the field, combine those together, we're going to keep more of the high quality, amazing, high empathy, open mindset people in our field, at growth mindset, not open mindset, although open's probably okay too. Those are 10 very important things. Random thoughts, as I mentioned, as I was staring out into nature in my backyard. So maybe with time, this list will change a little bit. Maybe when you're done watching this, you can tweet something out or text me. Maybe your list is similar to mine or different. I'd love to see it. I'd love to learn more, and I'd like to adapt this list as time goes on. So really today's webinar, I'm going to focus on 3 stories, kind of us processing, not really together because I'm sitting here by myself talking at a machine, but giving yourself some time to process, come up with the kind of things that you would do, some thoughts. Then I'm going to give you some more tools, and then we're going to wrap this one up. I think it should be shorter than the last one. Again, I look forward to doing more of these with time. So I want to share a story, and Mikey is not the real person's name, but it is based on a real person and a real situation. So I kind of want to share with you a story about Mikey. And to this day still, Mikey, I would say, and certainly at the time would have said, he was the most challenging student, or student with the most challenging behaviors I've ever worked with. He was violent, he was disrespectful, he eloped from property, he stole, he hit, he did it all, the trifecta. By the time this boy was in, Mikey was in 3rd grade, he had already had 3 superintendent level suspensions in a very large district of over 25,000 students, and I don't know, probably 30 buildings. The superintendent knew this 3rd grade boy by name. I think half the times the superintendent didn't know what my name was, and that's okay, another day's discussion. He's since retired, but it does say something if you have 25,000 students and this is the one that you happen to know their names. And at the time, I literally believed that I had done everything in my power, everything. I kind of was utilizing maybe a carrot and stick approach back then, and just tried everything. Just being honest, I probably was the teacher of record as the administrator with this boy. He was in my office all the time. I mean, if 9:30 rolled around and I hadn't seen him, it's probably one of 2 days that he was out sick or something, because he was always in my office, just completely disruptive, interfering with his own learning, disrupting the learning of others. Nothing worked. And it was very interesting because I think we were having PD day, maybe it was on a Wednesday or something, and we had a national guru on character come in. And the person told me that says, "Hey, Pearlman, you kind of look like crap." And okay, great, thank you. Good morning to you too. And the person had said, "Well, everyone tells me you're this smiling guy. You're always smiling. You're always happy. You're this upbeat, high energy guy." And this was a number of years ago. I was much younger then. And he said, "So what gives?" And I said, "Well, I just have to be honest with you, man. This kid, Mikey's, he's such a puzzle. He's driving me crazy. It's making my job miserable. He's hurting kids. He's totally disruptive, totally out of control. And my toolbox is completely empty. Like, I don't know what else to try with this kid." And so, we kind of sat down. I think at this point, maybe we carried on the conversation over lunch, and we kind of bantered back and forth. And the gentleman said, "Okay, I have something for you if you want to try it." And I said, "Okay, let's give it a whirl." He said, "Give the boy way more responsibility than he's ever shown he's capable of doing." And I'm like, what are you talking about? "No, give him way more responsibility than he deserves, than he's ever shown the ability to do. And I like, do you go to college for this? I mean, what are you even talking about? Like, I can't let this kid get beyond 10 feet from me without him hurting someone. And he said, have any of your methods worked? I said, no. Have you tried that? I said, no. So what's the harm? I'm like, the harm is he could probably hurt someone and I might be looking for a new job. And the guy said, look, just give it a whirl. Come up with something, try something. So I kind of, in the afternoon, listening to him speak, kind of was processing what I might want to do and so forth. And I don't even remember, maybe it was a Thursday. So I brought Mikey into my office, called him down right away, said, I didn't even do anything. Why even calling me down here? I didn't even do anything yet. And I'm like, you're right. You haven't done anything yet. I said, I have a job for you. And I've got a job. Might you be interested in doing that job? So what does the job entail? So the night before, I'd gone down into our crawl space or basement of the school and found a really old, bright orange, like crossing guard uniform. We don't even have crossing guards anymore. And it was beaten up and covered with webs. And I kind of shook it up, brought that up, found some of our old walkie-talkies, which you can kind of see in the middle there, sort of the Radio Shack, 4 for $10 variety. Maybe if you're lucky, sometimes you could catch a Cardinals baseball game over one of them. They weren't very good, but they were cheap. So I found those. And then I found that junior police. Actually, I think it said Lil Captain, but that was the only badge looking thing I could find. So I told him, I said, hey, so I have this job for you, Mikey, if you're interested. So I said, Dr. P's really bad at calling the buses. I call them wrong when they're coming in. I call them wrong and it just takes long. And he's like, yeah, you really aren't very good at that. And I'm like, dude, this isn't about me. This is about you. And I said, so I'm going to need some help. I'm going to give you these tools. I'll get you a clipboard. Maybe you could help call the buses. You could call the buses in, call them out, and let's see if we can't make things more efficient. And I really didn't know, kind of sat there looking and thinking, his hand on his chin. And he said, yeah, okay, I'll do that job. So maybe it was, whatever day of the week it was. I gave him the tools and, told him to report for duty, the next morning, or maybe it was a Friday and that was going to be a Monday. I don't remember. So next morning, I had so much on my mind. I completely forgot. I get to school really early. And like 5 minutes after I arrived, which is way before staff and students get there, I hear a minivan door slide closed and I see him walking in with stuff in his hand. And at first I couldn't remember. And then it occurred to me. So he walks into my office. He's got a dry cleaning bag with the orange vest in it. And he's got the walkie-talkie with like Lieutenant Mikey, on those little things you type the letters in and you get the little label maker thing. And apparently his mom must have done that. He fixed the thing up really well. And that beaten up badge that said Lil Captain or whatever was buffed up real well, shining beautifully. And he saluted and he said, I think it was Lieutenant Mikey reporting for duty. And at first I'm kind of looking at him. He had a great poker face for a third grader. And I'm looking at him, looking really deep into his eyes. And I'm like, oh my God, I think he's actually serious. So, I kind of set him up, had him hang with me for a bit, saw his mom drive away. So, I usually saw her drive away when she was picking him up for suspensions. First time I'd seen her at school when it wasn't picking up for suspension. And so we start the day, get him to his post, get him working. And every other teacher coming in stopped by my office. Why is Mikey out there with an orange vest, a badge, and a walkie-talkie? Are you crazy? You know the kind of words that he says, right? Like, what are you even thinking? And I'm just like, just let it be. We got this. I'm going to keep an eye on him. Just trust the process. I actually think that's what the national expert said. Just trust the process. I wasn't trusting the process. I really thought it was a good chance that it wasn't going to work. And so, even parents and kids, you could see them like walking away around him. They're all afraid of him and scared of him and so forth. So we started this program, and he'd call in the buses. He'd even walk across and wave kids across and help them cross the street, which really wasn't even in his job description. And kept doing this. And like the first day went okay. And there really weren't many problems during the school day. He'd come back, put his uniform, hang it up on my hook on the back of the door, off to class, give me a salute every day. and go do his thing. And, days went by, weeks went by. One day that superintendent had stopped by and saw the boy out there. Actually, I guess he didn't recognize him, came in, told me, how amazing that was. What a great young man, what a model character kid. In fact, I think he might have sent it out to all the other administrators, even took a picture of him, with his iPhone and sent it out to the other administrators about, hey, maybe you guys should think about doing something like Pearlman's doing over here, which I guess that was a good thing. I got ridiculed by a number of my colleagues, a few of them who had been by and knew who the kid was, from my horror stories, kind of like, good luck with that, Pearlman. And needless to say, as I watched this process go on for days and weeks and so forth, it was interesting because the people who walked really far around him and avoided him were starting to give him fist bumps and high fives and bro hugs. Of course, we weren't social distancing then. And he was like hugging little babies and posing for pictures. And like the kid's chin was up and he had a big smile, he had this smile I'd never seen before. It's beautiful, big smile. And he was upright and he was proud of himself. And the behaviors almost completely went away and his grades were improving. And it just like changed everything. And to me, it was one of those things like I thought I had tried everything. There is no way I would have given that kind of responsibility to him. I reached back out to this national character guru guy and ate crow. And I told him, man, you were right. You were completely right. I guess, he said, well, let me tell you what I went to college for. I have a doctorate in sociology and psychology, and I don't even know what else, a lot of ologies. And the reason I share this story is that is like the craziest, most out of the box idea to try for someone. But sometimes sticking your neck out, sometimes trying something that's absurd, trying something that you hadn't thought of or that you really believed had a very low level of potential success is exactly the kind of thing that we need to try for students. Mikey had all kinds of things. I didn't even know what trauma was back then. His father had abused, his mom had abused him and his brother, was in jail. The older brother ended up stealing cars. This boy, just so many things going on, so many issues, so many problems. I mean, I could go into the kinds of things. He stole my secretary's purse. He used the credit card to buy stuff at the grocery store, and then ditched all the stuff into a lake, which, is a felony really because the credit card balance was a lot higher than mine was. But just showing that, there really are no bad kids. I think a lot of people who encountered Mikey would have said, there's your exception. And maybe at that time I would have been more inclined to say that. If someone says, give me one positive about this kid, maybe I could give him one, but I don't know I could have given two. And if they said, write all the negatives, I would have had a very long list. And sometimes this problem solving process or having someone come in and brainstorm with you or just work with it, who's not emotionally concerned, who's not been hit, spit on, kicked, cursed at, chasing after the kid, really can help. And it's something that's worth doing. To me, this was one of the greatest successes that I had a part of at all. I mean, any school, one of the biggest turnarounds you'd ever see. So again, sometimes that's really all that it takes. And just for a minute, I'm going to let you kind of think for a minute. If you had been in my shoes, what would you have done? I mean, would you have had the courage to even implement something like this? I wasn't really gung-ho about doing it. And I'm a math guy and a probability guy. And I thought maybe there was a 1% chance of this working. And sometimes 1% chance of working is just enough. What did he need? What did Mikey need? What was it? What was the piece that really helped him? And I could tell you what I think, but I'd like you to think about it. And then why did this plan work? So I'm going to let you kind of ponder those for a minute. I'm going to turn off the volume for a second, let you know the secret. I'm going to take a drink of water here. But ponder these questions. What would you have done? And would you have the courage to have tried this? And then what did he need? And why did this plan work? So take just a moment to think about that. I did need the drink of water, I could have just told you to pause the video for a minute and you would have had the same effect there. So whatever position you're in, use the story. I mean, use my story with Mikey as a problem-solving conversation. Ask some of the questions. I do a 10-minute problem-solving training for schools, for districts, organizations. I am taking that all over the country. Probably at some point we'll offer that as a webinar for those that we just can't make the dates work to come in there. And we ask a lot of these same questions and more. And maybe use this case as one that you're problem solving on, because if you don't have Mikey in your school, because there's only one of him, you have someone a lot like Mikey, because all of us do. And maybe you have more than one right now, and just use this success or my success following this national character guy's advice and use that to see what you can do with your own, like I say, your own Mikey, if you have someone like that. Oops. There we go. We got a little too far there. I want to share a story time part 2, and I'll share story time part 3 in a moment. Before I do that, I want to let you know that at the end of this video, there is the link to the PowerPoint. So if you do choose to share this, or if you'd like to reference that at another time, the PowerPoint is available. The link, it's on a Google Drive, but I think it's out of my website, mostvaluablepd.com. You'll find the links. You can download it there, and then you'll have the video, and you'll also have the PowerPoint to go with it. So I want to share this story about Mark. Again, the boy's name wasn't Mark, but kind of want to share this story with you. So I don't know, maybe Mikey was slightly more challenging, or maybe he wasn't than Mark. They're in the same category. One's probably the gold medalist, one's maybe the silver medalist. And Mark's situation was a little bit different. As we kind of discuss when we do problem solving, we talk about like what behavior are we trying to focus on, or what behavior are we trying to extinguish or reduce in that. And I'll say in those trainings, it really don't focus on more than 1 or 2. And this one was super easy. It was just one thing. Mark's deal was he would just shut down and stop communicating, go in the fetal position, and he wouldn't budge. It wouldn't matter if the class is a 5th grader. It wouldn't matter if the class was going to recess or to lunch or to another, to specials or whatever. At the end of the day, it happened quite a bit. And usually it was happening right before lunch. And he would just, let me say that differently. It happened a lot and very randomly, but a lot of times it happened right before lunch. So this is kind of how this went. Generally, about the time of day that this would occur would be the time of day that, and I have to say it, administrators have to go to the bathroom too. And I would have to walk through our staff lounge to get to the adult bathroom. And almost every single day, as soon as I crossed that threshold into the adult bathroom, my radio would go off, Dr. Pearlman, 911, room 15. And after a while, I knew exactly what that meant. And I would come out of the bathroom, and whoever was already in the teacher's lounge would be laughing. Look, this guy can't even use the bathroom here. I mean, it's just crazy. So I'd hustle down there, and Mark would be laying in a fetal position, or laying like a whatever. I don't even know a good example for it. He'd just be laying out, and he was in his own world. He wouldn't respond to anything. I tried everything, every trick I could to get him to respond, to get him to move, and he wouldn't. The teacher would have to get the student to lunch or recess or wherever else they were heading to, and I tried everything, nothing worked. And in our district, unless it was a safety thing, like there was a fire or something, we weren't supposed to or permitted to pick anyone up and carry them, and we just weren't supposed to do that. Another factor was Mark was just about as tall and weighed almost what I did. I'm not really sure when he would go like a jellyfish and just flatten out that I could have picked him up, and maybe even 3 of us together probably couldn't have picked him up. So like I said, I tried everything, nothing worked. We had a speaker come through town who specialized in different areas of mental health, things like, we didn't call it trauma then, like attachment disorder, reactive attachment disorder, anxiety, depression, stress, etc. And so I heard that she was coming, and that she had done work with some students and kids nationally that were exhibiting some challenging behaviors and more extreme behaviors. So this speaker came, was about an hour from my house. So I drove out, bought her book, drove out, listened for a few hours. I think it got done about 9:30 or something. And I waited till everyone got their book signed and asked her questions. And I asked her, I said, hey, I see you got a lot of books, in boxes. Can I help you out to your car? She's like, oh, that was so nice of you. And start walking outside. And I said, okay, I have to come clean. It's not just that I'm being a nice guy and helping you out. I came here, bought your book, read your book, came here because I really need help with Mark. And so she said, kind of explain to me. So I explained that, what his behaviors were. I don't know why I told her that every day when I'm trying to go to the bathroom, I get to the threshold, the radio goes off, and I just blurted out, I haven't gone to the bathroom in like 6 months during the school day. And she kind of laughed, and I thought, I don't even know why I said that. And I think I went on to say, I'm stopped up and all that, and maybe making a little more light out of this. And she kind of snickered and laughed. I explained everything that he did and how he just would kind of go into his own world, and he'd be like a jellyfish or in the fetal position, and he wouldn't budge, he wouldn't respond. And then I tried every tool that I could. And we're loading up her car, and she said, okay, well, I have a solution for you. So I take my pen out. I'm going to write on the back of my hand. She says, okay, here's what I need you to do. Next time you encounter him, I want you to approach him. So I write, approach him, make eye contact. So I write, make eye contact. And I want you to say these magic words. And I'm getting excited. I'm getting excited that we can extinguish this behavior. I'm getting excited that from a safety standpoint, God forbid there was a fire or something, that we're going to keep this kid safe and keep everyone safe and get him out okay. And kind of selfishly, I'm thinking in my head, I may actually be able to use the bathroom at school again. I'm constipated. I haven't gone to the bathroom in months. And so she's giving me the magic words. And she said, again, approach, make eye contact, and say these magic words. I must have been like a preschool or kindergarten. I'm sitting at every word. I'm so excited to hear what she's going to say. And she says, I want you to say this. Mark, would you buy a pickle for a nickel? And I'm like, I'm sorry, can you go ahead with the advice? She was, that was it. I want you to approach him, make eye contact, or try to make eye contact, and ask Mark if he'd buy a pickle for a nickel. And she must have read my face. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me, lady, right? I bought your book, drove all the way out here. Now it's like 10 o'clock or whatever time. I have an hour drive to get home, and I got to deal with this kid tomorrow. And as I mentioned, I'm constipated. Like, I haven't gone to the bathroom. I probably have to go visit my doctor. And this is the best you have? I mean, can I return the ticket? Can you buy my book back? And I must have looked very frustrated. I get in the car. I call my wife on the ride home. She sounds very exhausted, so she's going to go to bed. I tell the whole story to her. She laughs. And my wife's a therapist, been a therapist for a very long time. I'm like, that's fabulous. Thanks, sweetheart, for that. So I get home, put my stuff down, change my clothes, and my wife's out cold. The room's dark. I kind of turn on night light so I can see what I'm doing. And on my nightstand is a jar of Vlasic kosher dill pickles. And it said, would you buy one for a nickel? He. And I'm like, that's really, really flippin' funny. Great. Fabulous. Ha, ha, ha. So I bring the jar of pickles with me the next day to school, set it on my desk, going about my business. About that time, get up. I drink a lot of diet soda. So I really had to go to the bathroom. Heading down, go through the teacher's lounge, cross the threshold, into the bathroom. The radio goes off again. Dr. Pearlman, 911, room 15. So I go down there, try everything that I've tried. Nothing worked, of course. I looked down at my hand. I had showered, but I guess I left the remnants of the plan, right? And the magic words, the secret words or whatever. And I figured, you know what? I really don't want to ask this kid if he wants to buy a pickle for a nickel. I don't even know what the hell that means, but whatever, I'll give it a try. So I creep up, look in the eyes, and said, Mark, would you buy a pickle for a nickel? And the kid leapt up like he was possessed. Got up, made eye contact, looking right at me. What the F word did you just say to me? And I'm like a bobblehead, just shaking my head. I don't even know what to say. He goes, what kind of question is that? What does that even mean? What kind of principal are you? What do you mean would I buy a pickle for a nickel? That's like the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And I'm like a bobblehead just shaking my head because I didn't have a step 4 or 5. This is the only information the lady gave me. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I'm kind of excited that at least I got the kid sitting up and I got him talking. Then he's like, Mark says to me, well, who told you I even like pickles? Now we keep talking about pickles, pickles, and pickles. Where can I get a pickle? I'm like, I know where you can get a pickle. Come with me, Mark. So we go to my office. I give him a pickle. He eats this thing like he's never seen food before. And there's the salty green liquid going down his, down his shirt, down his legs, everywhere, just making a hot mess of it. And he's talking to me while he's chomping away at this pickle. And as we're talking, I figure like, here's my opportunity. I said, Mark, why do you think I come in and hassle you? Why do you think the teachers come in and hassle you? I don't know. I said, well, Mark, it's because we care about you and we want you to be safe, and you can't be in a room by yourself. God forbid there was a fire or an intruder. And then I kind of thought about maybe intruder, he'd be safe because he's not budging anyway, and he's down low and hidden if we're hiding. Never mind that. But we care about you. And when you shut down like that, we don't even know what's going on in your head, what you need. He goes, well, I just get frustrated. Just as I start getting into something, it's time to go. And it's really hard for me, and kind of discussed some different strategies we could try, discussed, even ways to de-escalate, even whatever, when you start feeling frustrated or start getting upset, and what does that feel like to you? What does that look like? And he's like, I feel like I start breathing heavier. My heart starts racing and I start clenching my fist. I said, well, when that stuff starts happening, there's a number of things. And we talked about some things we could try. And if that doesn't work, just come to my office. Come put your head down on the desk, or just come in here and give me the sign that you need a pickle or something. And it was the most absurd thing ever. And it actually started working. And it wasn't like he was coming every day. With time, he was able to sort of moderate things a little different. He knew he had a voice. He was recognizing the signs himself. He did come, several times to get a pickle. And again, good conversation for us. The teacher said she'd be willing to have some pickles on hand for him as well. And things seemed to work okay. I don't know, a few weeks later, he wasn't at school. And of course, we all notice the kids that exhibit the challenging behaviors. We all notice when they're not there, because generally they're always there. And mom brought him in late. And I will just say she was not the card-carrying member of the Dr. Pearlman fan club for whatever reason that is. And she came and she goes, I bet you're wondering why Mark wasn't here today. And I said, yeah, it kind of was actually. And she's like, well, I took him to his psychiatrist appointment and told him about how great things have been going. Because Dr. Pearlman, you haven't even called to have me pick him up in weeks. And that's new and different. And then I took him to his pediatrician for his annual checkup. And that went great. Well, there was one little thing. His blood pressure was slightly elevated. The pediatrician, suggesting that he maybe cut down on his sodium a little bit. You wouldn't know anything about that. And I'm not a good liar, but that day I was. I'm like, nope, I have no idea. So I guess the only negative byproduct of the pickle for a nickel intervention was the amount of sodium in it. But I guess we could deal with that. We could find a low sodium pickle. After I kind of saw that this intervention was going to work, we tweaked it with time. Maybe we had something other than a pickle and had some other things put in place, other places he could go to if he was starting to get upset or scared or frustrated or whatever the heavy emotion he was dealing with. I had to call this national expert back. And I'm pretty good at eating crow. I make plenty of mistakes. And if I make one or if I say something wrong, I will certainly apologize and do what I have to do. And I called her and she kind of laughed along with me. And I said, I really don't know why that worked. I don't even know why I tried it. I'm really happy to inform you his behavior is so much better. He feels better about himself. He's doing better. This is working. Some other things we're trying. And to be quite frank, I'm actually able to use the bathroom during the day. And that's quite a success. She laughed with me and certainly accepted my apology. And I'll say the same thing I did on the last one and give you just a moment to kind of think about this. If you were in my shoes, knowing all those things and dealing with this, what would you have done? What would you have tried? And what did Mark need? And why did this plan work? So I'm going to give you maybe just 30 seconds or a minute. I'm going to take a drink again too. So hold tight or pause this if you want, whatever you prefer, and just kind of reflect on these. What would you have done? What did he need? And why did this plan work? Well, I'm terrible at telling time, so that probably was like 20 seconds, whatever the case is. We're going to move forward. Last of the story time. So I want to share a story about Annie, and no, this is not a picture of Annie or a picture of anybody, just a cafeteria photo. Maybe this looks like your school now by the snowmen on top. I'm assuming this is like December or January or something. But I want to share a story. I've shared her story often. I'm going to do sort of the abridged version. And Annie came to our school, I believe, going into first grade. She'd gone to another school or a couple of schools in kindergarten and arrived in our school. And she was just a challenge from day one. She eloped from our property. She didn't follow directions. I'm not sure that she'd ever sat in a chair ever before. She ate and walked at the lunchroom. I don't think she's ever sat at a kitchen table or cafeteria table before. She couldn't really recognize her letters or distinguish her numbers. Just really struggled altogether. She really had no friends. She kind of pushed everyone away, adults, kids, helpers, Oasis tutors, whatever. She just struggled across the board. And she came to school, you know, kind of dirty sometimes, her hair really disheveled, and just really was a challenge for us, and really stood out. Had maybe 600 students in our school, and she definitely stood out among everybody and was very noticeable. And there was one, you know, she was in my office every day. She found her way to my office. We'd get sent out for being disrespectful, eloping, hurting other people, you know, just doing what Annie did. And I kind of would sit with her, and I noticed something. I had like fake change, you know, fake plastic change, and fake dollar bills. And I would just watch her, and I'd ask her different things, you know, just occupying her time, either before she was being sent home or if she was kind of an in-school suspension or even just for a cool down, that even though she really couldn't recognize her letters or her numbers, or maybe a little bit she could, that girl could make change like nobody's business. And I don't know where she picked it up. I don't know if at home they fiddled around with money or something, but like she was really, really good. I don't think she really could do addition or subtraction. I don't know how she figured this out, but someone had taught her, you know, that there are 10 of these little things, these dimes and a dollar, and there's 4 quarters and a dollar, and there's 100 pennies and 20 nickels. And don't even ask me. It was just such an anomaly. It didn't make any sense to me or anything. And so she'd be starting the day, get off the bus, there'd be a problem on the bus. She'd come into the breakfast room, there's a problem in the breakfast room, and on and on and on. And one day started, she went off to class. The 3 cafeteria workers, I'll call them lunch ladies. I don't know if that's appropriate or not, but they were ladies and they all worked and served lunch. So the 3 lunch ladies came in, and it was almost comical. One came with like a rolling pin, the other one with the spatula, and the other one with the clippies. And at first, when I looked up and they were in my office, I thought they were there trying to intimidate me with their weapons. They weren't. And they just said, "Hey, I don't know if you've noticed. We've noticed that little girl over there, Annie, has a really tough time, you know, during breakfast. And there's 2 or 3 staff trying to corral her, and you know, she's just kind of a mess there. But you know, we kind of got to talking to her a bit, and she actually said she could make change, and maybe the teacher or someone else mentioned to us that she could make change. And you know, these are the days before we had the, you know, the card swiping your account, that people actually brought money or tickets or whatever to get a breakfast and a lunch at our school. So he said, well, she's really good at making change. Can we put her to work? You know, at least maybe we can help keep her busy. We'll have her make change for people. I said, well, gosh, sounds like a good idea to me. Let me talk to her. And Annie was excited to do it, and she got in there, started working. Within no time, they had a little apron for her. It's probably like 12 sizes too big. They wrapped around her, and they got her the little gloves, and they got her the little hairnet thing. And she'd be making change, and I'd poke out my window because I overlooked the breakfast and lunchroom, and I would see her there making change and, kind of talking to people, which is good because she really didn't have a good relationship with anybody in the building. She was doing okay. And, she was still getting in trouble during the day. She still found her way into my office, still eloped from our property, but, maybe slowly the behaviors were starting to improve, and so forth. So a couple of weeks later, I got an update from the cafeteria workers or our lunch ladies there, and they said that they wanted to know if it's okay if they could promote her. I'm like, what does that mean? Well, could we promote her? I mean, she's done such a great job. Pretty much every morning we serve biscuits here. Can we make her the biscuit distribution coordinator? And we'll get her a fancier badge. And you know what? We're going to start letting her pick the music in the kitchen. Usually it's the most senior member, but she's done such a great job. And with this promotion, we're going to actually let her pick the songs that she wants to listen to. Her station we're going to listen to in the radio, in the kitchen on the radio. And I was just like, yeah, absolutely. And they made her a little business card looking thing. They made her a name tag, and she had her apron and her gloves and her hairnet, and she was doing better. And the behaviors started, the negative behaviors started reducing, and slowly the schoolwork was getting better. And occasionally I'd even see her with a smile on her face when I peered in, and she'd take the big clippies with her little hand and those big oversized plastic gloves and putting biscuits, and kids would start talking to her more and interacting, and it started carrying over into the classroom. She looked more confident, she looked more happy. Behaviors in the bus started getting a little bit better. Kids started walking in the hallway saying hi to her, even bigger kids who got to know her since she was promoted to the biscuit distribution coordinator and so forth. A couple days or weeks later, our boosters or our PTO came in and said, hey, look, I know there's kids' privacy and stuff like that, but we're pretty familiar with Annie, and we know because a couple of us have little ones in her grade or in her class. Would it be okay? We operate our school store and we sell our spirit wear and our swag and all that. Would it be okay if we borrowed her during the week? We put her to work too. I mean, she's done such a great job over there. Maybe we could do that. And, we really could use the help. It gets really busy during the week. So presented it to Annie. Annie was really excited to do it. And, within no time, the thing was running way more efficiently. She's making change. She's interacting with more people. They got her one of their shirts that says honorary PTO board member, and said Annie on it. It was all bedazzled with shiny stuff. And that little girl, man, I mean, she just looked so happy in between customers and things. And all times they were helping to braid her hair, and even got her a little bow, a little school spirit bow, and like just a whole different kid. And her shoulders are back, and she's making eye contact with people, and she's smiling and interacting. And the negative behaviors were way, way lower. And her achievement was getting better. Her attitude was better. It was almost like a whole new kid. And just what a great success story. A few weeks into the job, she stopped by my office and said, Dr. Pearlman, I'm starting to feel something. I feel something. And my first reaction when I hear I feel something is to grab the trash can, because it means someone's about to throw up, in my office. And she goes, no, I don't mean feel something like that. I have these little bumps on my arm, and my cheeks are feeling a little warmer, and I'm getting a little tingly, and I'm smiling a lot. And I sat there and I started tearing up right in front of her. She wasn't she wasn't throwing up, going to throw up. She wasn't sick. She was feeling love and kindness. This is a kid at 6 years old, had never felt those emotions before, felt like someone cared about her, that she had a place, that she was loved, and all of those things. And I'm a big dude, and I'm a big lug sometimes. And I'm sitting there, okay, go to class. I'll catch up with you later. I turn back, and I've got the tears just streaming down my face, and just realizing, wow, that's what it took. The consequences, the heavy stick, the trying to bribe her, none of those things worked. The suspensions, they didn't work. Look, suspensions don't work at all. What worked was a team coming together. This wasn't a top-down approach. This was my cafeteria workers, my lunch ladies, and my PTO and boosters stepping up and thinking outside of the box and giving her an opportunity to be successful, to feel a part of a community, be connected, build that relationship. That's the key, folks. That's the secret sauce. Okay, it isn't buying some big program. It isn't all these things that we keep trying and everything else. If for some of our kids, it's as simple as that relationship. It's as simple as hopes and dreams. It's as simple as having someone feel success. It's breaking that trend of every day of my life until now has sucked. Today sucks. So every day in the future is going to suck, and it's hopeless. And why should I even care? Why should I even get out of bed and get on a bus and take it an hour to school and walk into my building every day? That's really the key right there. So again, like we did with the other scenarios, and this one's for Annie, and these are all true stories. What would you have done? What did she need? And why did this plan work? So take just another 30 seconds or pause this and think about it. And again, when you work with your colleagues or staff or whomever, ask these same questions. Okay, and again, I really hope that you do share these stories. You'll have the PowerPoint, you have the audio. Somewhere I probably have these written out in more detail, and I'm more than happy to share that if this is something that could benefit people in your school. So I have some tips. I have 30 tips here that might be of some value to you. Most of them have come out of the book. Sounds like a commercial again. Whatever it takes for all students to succeed in school and life. And that came out last year in January. All proceeds benefit the nonprofit that we founded. That really was a commercial there. So here are the 30 tips, the things to think about when dealing with students that have challenging behaviors. Number one is to stay calm. Okay, I know it's hard. Our own adrenaline gets running. We get pumped up. You know, it's challenging. Sometimes maybe a kid's like swinging a stick or something. We're a little scared for ourselves, for other students, but try our best to stay calm and portray calm, because oftentimes even someone who's dysregulated will feed off of our emotions, what we look like. So at least fake it till you make it. Work as a team to problem solve and create a safety plan. You're not alone. Please know, no matter what your role is in the school, you're not alone. This can feel very isolating. It can feel like somehow it's a reflection of who you are as a teacher or person. It's not. Somebody just got assigned to your class or moved into your district boundaries or your school boundaries. So you're not alone. Be proactive. I do a lot with movement. I do a lot with mindfulness. I do a lot with self-care, even for kids. A lot of times doing these proactive pieces will help all of us, will help the student as well. Lead with empathy. I believe you got to start with empathy first, and simply put, empathy is just putting yourself in someone else's shoes. As you're doing that detective work, figure out what it is that's going on, what skill is missing, what emotion is driving the behavior, and that will really help you in your response and then planning for responses in the future. Document, 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 and keep good data before, during, and after. We can figure out and start putting pieces together of what's going on with the behavior. Are they hungry? Didn't they sleep? You know, are they scared? Is there a certain thing that happens during the day? This is good information, a certain subject areas, a certain place during the building, you know, time of day that we're seeing something. Please don't take things personally. It's not about you. In the last video I shared about the student that called me fat, bald, and stupid, and I didn't take offense to that. Okay, it wasn't about me. It never was about me. And whether it was just the student was out of control, whether it was self-sabotage, whether he was just trying to set me off, that he's seen that strategy has worked somewhere before, it's not going to work with me because I'm not taking it personally, because it's not about me. Focus on and reinforce the positives as much as we can. For a lot of our kids, the only attention they're getting is negative. Let's change that narrative and reinforce the positive. Create a safe and quiet space in the room, and also a buddy classroom. Maybe even in the building, there's a place for that, for someone who's dysregulated, and we train them, right? It's kind of like, we'd rather you go into your corner in that pillow thing over there than elope from the room or destroy the classroom or hurt someone. So really just training them that there's a safe and quiet space for them to calm themselves down. Definitely think it's important to teach social skills. So often, some of the power struggles and issues that get escalated are because people take offense to something that a kid does, or that they're not looking in your eyes, or they turn their back. And for a lot of our kids, nobody taught them these appropriate social skills. There's a program out of Omaha, Nebraska, at a Boys Town social skills, where they talk about the first things: to make eye contact, to say okay, how to disagree appropriately, how to take no as an answer. For a lot of our kids, they need this. In my house, we had Pearlman Town social skills. I learned that as a kid growing up. But for a lot of our kids, they haven't learned that yet. So let's get that piece in place. Identify the captain of the team or the critical friend to build relationships, daily check-in or check-out. And let's make that someone who's not putting any demands on them, right? Let's just have this be someone that can help build them up. Hey, folks, let's use fewer words. When there's a kid who is escalating, we don't need to use the flowery words. We don't need to give a narrative. We don't have to do any of that. Just use fewer words. Include stakeholders and students in creation of a plan. I do that, and I train everybody in my 10-minute problem solving. It's really important. Incorporate more movement and mindfulness activities. We sit too much. It's really hard for kids to sit. I've had ADHD before they had a name for it, and it's hard for me to sit, and we fidget and we move and we do things, and it's disruptive, and that's our brain's way of helping us try to focus. Okay, so let's be proactive and put in more movement, more mindfulness, more breaks. Practice self-care yourself. Okay, you can't help someone else if you're not taking care of yourself. Using, as I modeled for these 3 scenarios before, use out-of-the-box thinking. Keep looking for ways to add tools to your toolbox, to your colleagues, to your staff, to everybody you work with. If you find something good, share it. Create like a Google share drive that has things that we've tried, whether it's things that are nationally used or things that you've just found to be successful in your own building. Let's share that. Let's replicate that. Let's make sure that all kids are successful. Monitor progress and modify a plan as needed. Sometimes a really good intervention doesn't work the first few times, and sometimes a really crappy intervention works a few times and then never works again. So be prepared that we're going to have to monitor the progress, and we may have to modify things along the way. I think students really need to understand clear and concise rules and expectations, and don't assume that they really know what that is, just like the social skills, especially for a student who's new to school or a student who's new to your school. Maybe the rules and expectations, the words that they use, we're not using common language. Maybe between different parts of the building and on the bus and other times of the day that the rules and expectations change so wildly. Let's assume goodwill first and think that maybe the kid just doesn't know what the expectations are. Maybe they do. That's okay. I kind of said this already. I said movement, mindfulness. So I'm going to say plan for regular and frequent breaks. So even beyond that, make sure we have those. Plan for transitions and changes in schedule and routines. There are kids that really, really need consistency as much as we can. Let's prepare them for any changes that could come up. Focus on the behavior, not the student, right? We do not like or care for that behavior, but we love the student and we care about them. Listen and look for triggers. Again, if we're keeping good data, we should be able to deal with that. Help identify and implement replacement behaviors. We've talked about that. Build the bank account with student and with family with positive interactions. They used to say all kinds of numbers, but I think, we need to have 10 positives for every negative. And that's easy. We can start that as soon as we get our roster. We can start that by making proactive phone calls or emails or texts or letters home. And for some of our kids, it's going to be hard to find a positive, but find a positive. The kids are off task all the time. You could say, well, your child is very consistent, or they're consistent that they show up to school every single day, whatever it is. Come up with something positive and build those up. It's a lot easier to make a withdrawal, asking for help, dealing with something when we've already built up that really strong positive relationship. Involve therapy and mental health resources. That's a given in your building. Build hope for the future. We talked about that. We talked about the situation earlier about giving more responsibility than what is deserved. Clean slate for you and the student each day. And you need to fake it until you can make it, right? You have to do that. They need to understand that they have a clean slate. Even if a kid, look, I say suspensions don't work. A kid hurts somebody, it really hurts someone, or brings a weapon to school, they've got to go home, right? If they do something really, really bad, they're still going to have to go home. Or even if they just did something, disrespectful or rude or hurtful, you have to convince yourself, if you don't believe it, that they get a clean slate, or we're going to continue having the same behaviors all the time. Provide opportunities for student to repair any damages. That's the restorative approach. I talk all the time about, that's great, thank you for your apology. I do believe that you feel remorseful. Now, how are we going to fix this? And how are you going to make sure this doesn't happen again? So when people say restorative just sounds like soft on discipline, I don't think so at all. I just think it's smart. And it's a good way to teach someone and hold them responsible, and not just give some punitive thing that really doesn't matter anyway. How many of our kids, if they're struggling with behaviors and academics, if they're given the opportunity to just get sent home, their parents are probably working. They're at home, sleeping in until noon, playing video games, watching YouTube videos, and goofing around all day, right? So in my mind, let's just look at effectiveness, right? Let's just look at something that's going to break that cycle. And again, for some of ours, that punitive approach, some of these kids just don't care. I'll go home, whatever. I'd rather be there than be embarrassed in school here because I can't read or I don't know how to do math. So let's change that narrative, and then celebrate successes with the student, with your grade level team, with your subject area team, with your building. Celebrate any successes. When we're working with students that have exhibited and are struggling with behaviors, let's celebrate those successes. Some of these interventions will take time. If we can eliminate 25 or 50% of the disruptive behaviors, we need to celebrate that. Yes, we're going to keep working on the other 50% or 75%, but celebrate the successes. If a kid's off task 10 times a day and we cut that down to 5 times, that's called progress, folks. That's a really, really good thing. I shared on the last video, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but just a reminder of the acronym SHOCKERS. It's just that notion of school-wide team. Again, in the 10-minute problem solving, we use that. It doesn't have to be every member of the school, but does need to be at least a handful of people. The more representative of different areas of the building, the better. The more different perspectives we have, the better. Hope, as I mentioned, is so important to build. Again, hopelessness is a key reason why people attempt suicide. We can help build the students' hopes and dreams, hear what they are, help them make progress to it. Shared a lot of the out-of-the-box thinking and strategies in the examples that we use. Also doing like a morning martial arts group, a boys knitting group, a girls knitting group, whatever it is, a running club, all of these types of things. Try anything. Having that critical friend is so important. Exhibiting kindness even when someone's being unkind to you. Empathy is the most important thing. When I hired teachers and any staff member, I wanted to gauge their empathy. If they had high empathy, I could teach them just about anything else. I don't really know how to teach empathy, and you can add into that compassion. If you don't have it, it's really hard to learn it. Response to intervention, again, this is focused mainly on behaviors in this example, and I think we can totally do that. Self-care, we have to take care of ourselves, right? Due to stress or secondary trauma, it's really, really important to have self-care. And there's so many examples of it. Go on a Google search and type in teacher self-care. You'll learn a lot of them. Some people like journaling. In fact, my wife, Dr. Lena Pearlman, came out with a journal, a very easy to use journal. Sounds like another commercial. It's called Stay Here. You can get it on Amazon. It's a great tool to use, or any journal that you're just writing things down at the end of the day, unpacking some of the things that are going on, proactively making sure that you are getting exercise. I'm not suggesting every one of us train for the Boston Marathon or some Ironman competition or something, or CrossFit, but at least that we're moving. Go get a walk during the day. Go for a walk. Get some fresh air. There's apps available now. Talk to somebody. If we're really in a bad place, reach out to a therapist or someone who can help you process, who can help you, unpack this stuff, who can help with cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT and mindfulness and all of these things. It'll really help us. It'll help our longevity. It'll help our quality of life. We all know that if things are highly stressful at work, we take that stuff home with us. And we want to stop doing that. We want to reduce that as much as possible so that you come home, you're at home. You're with your family if you have family. You're with your friends. You're with your romantic partner, whoever that you're with, that we can leave the school stuff at school as much as we can, right? And that we're more equipped. I talk about in the last training I did, and in my therapy practice, the trainings I do across the country, I talk about your window of tolerance. And we want to build that up so that window is wide open. So even if some challenging things happen during the day, you still have plenty of room before it slams closed. Some of us, the window is only cracked to start with. There's no wiggle room there, okay? So we want to be doing things proactively to build that up so that you are in the best place you can. You're the best version of yourself. You're ready to tackle whatever's thrown your way. I shared before, and I'll share again, there are a number of resources on here. I'll take probably more than a moment here. The video from Stuart Avalon is really a good one. He used to work with Ross Greene at Mass General Hospital in Boston. It's affiliated with Harvard. It's a very, very good video if you get a chance to watch that. He does have a book out too. I actually don't have that up on the screen here, but you can look him up. It's on Amazon. I don't know that it's very expensive at this point. The Deepest Well is from Nadine Burke Harris. She is sort of the guru on adverse childhood experiences and childhood trauma. The Boy Who Was Raised as a Dog from Bruce Perry is a very powerful book on trauma. Help for Billy from Heather Forbes. Again, there's a lot of trauma books, but also behaviors. I put my book on the bottom there. I'm totally recommending my book. It's like the fourth commercial today, Whatever It Takes. There are a lot of scenarios in there, a lot of good information, a lot more detail than what we talked about today. There's a whole bunch of Ross Greene books, and some of those are good for us as practitioners. There's also a really good book that can be sent home for parents that's really helpful for them as well, as they are our partner in this journey of helping our students to be successful. Created a list when I started putting together and rewriting this course that I'm teaching at Ed Psych for the Exceptional Child here in St. Louis for Maryville University. I asked around, and there's probably a list of 100 books. I can't speak to every one of them necessarily because I haven't read all of them. And some people have said, I love this book or this, and oh, why is that book on the list? You can make that decision yourself. I know that there are plenty of places right now that you can get books online, maybe even for free. Someone said the New York Public Library has put their collection, the majority of collection, online for free as we are social distancing and that fun stuff. But check it out. Check out the list. If you need a recommendation in particular, you're looking for something, let me know and I'll help you find that. And if I don't know the answer, I will ask someone on my Twitter, PLN, or on our Facebook group, that Maslow Before Bloom. 2 more commercials. I wanted to throw this one in here because I've heard so many times from other kids, from even staff, probably more from staff, about this whole notion of that's not fair to the other kids, or this isn't fair. Fair isn't everyone getting the same thing. Fair is everyone getting what they need in order to be successful. Print this out. Remind yourself, remind your colleagues, fair isn't everyone getting the same thing. Fair is everyone getting what they need in order to be successful. I might have had this on the last PowerPoint. It's one of my favorites. There are students in your school who have never felt love, kindness, success, or hope. You have the power to help them to experience these, to help change their life trajectory, and to possibly save a life, one child and one day at a time. You can print this one out too. I think it's really important. And here's a commercial. As I mentioned, once we get back to things as normal, I will be on tour again. I do whatever it takes for all students to succeed in school and life. Name of my book. I do that as a training. I do I'm sad, mad, and traumatized, and you still expect me to learn. I do the 10-minute problem solving for struggling students. I love doing all of these. There are other things I do in the area of differentiation and also in educator self-care. I do one tied to all of these where we also tie in a research component where we all kind of research together. And also we customize everything. We customize everything that we offer to the school and district. You have all my contact information here and on other slides, but you can always reach me at 314-323-7340 or Bryan with a Y. So Bryan at mostvaluablepd.com, and all kinds of other ways of reaching me. You can totally get a hold of me. So any questions, comments, other, I can't take them now because I'm not there with you. Here's my website. I think I just mentioned that, mostvaluablepd.com. Did I mention Twitter? Only about a dozen times probably. Sign up if you haven't already. I'm Dr. P, so DRP_principal. I'll follow you back. Whatever it takes for kids is the hashtag. And that Facebook group, again, in case you forgot or didn't sign up, you can do it right now. Pause this thing and do it right now. I'm going to keep going anyway, but pause this and do it right now. And there's my book again. And I thank you and my contact information, so you can pause and write all that stuff down. And that ridiculous big head on those pajamas, but the PowerPoint is available. And I'm sorry that URL is so long. The Google one was worse. It's just that https://www.mostvaluablepd.com/uncategorized/pd-in-my-pjs. Again, you can pause this. If you somehow get lost, I think you can go to my website, mostvaluablepd.com, scroll to the bottom where it says blog. You'll click on blog and it'll bring this up. You'll be able to see the link for this. That's it. That's all I have today. So I really appreciate you taking the time to hang with me for just a little bit today. I really hope everyone is safe and feeling well and doing all those things that are recommended to us to avoid COVID-19, the coronavirus, and all that. I know that you miss your students. I know that you miss school. Just be patient. We all feel that way. I've had, I don't even know now, maybe 20 trainings or keynotes canceled between now and I think maybe May or June. And you know what? That's okay. I want everyone to be healthy and to live and survive and to be able to talk. I will totally see you. My schedule is starting to fill up for late July, August, and September. I'd love to connect with you any way we can, anything we can do to help students to be successful, to help teachers be the best version of themselves. And that's all I have today. So again, thank you very much for spending time with me. And please don't screen capture that image. It's going to give me nightmares and it's my own face. Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.